So in case of generating a self-signed certificate and the key, you will use this command OpenSSL request 509 certificate and the number of days you need, and then the key which is the algorithm, and then no DES without password, key out where you want the key and where you want the certificate. In case you are going to raise a request so that you can send this request certificate request to an external party or external authority and then generate a certificate, you will follow this method. You will do, instead of these things, you will type new and then everything else remains the same. Output will be CSR. The whole process of setting up or installing an SSL certificate, be it a self-signed or be it through Let's Encrypt or any CA authority, should not take more than 2 to 5 minutes. But this video will be very long because we are going to explain each and every single step. In case you want to quickly jump to installing the certificates or finding the commands, I will suggest look into the lecture titles, and based on that, you directly go where you need to be. Hello there, welcome back to one more video on the Linux series. This video we will see how to install SSL certificate in your nginx server and enabling HTTPS in our websites. In case you need clarification on how HTTPS or SSL works, we published a simple animation video in this series. I will suggest taking a look at that. In this video we will focus on two things. One, we will create a self-signed certificate, and then we will see how it works, and then we will create a request, and then here I will explain how this request could be converted into a certificate. In the previous videos in the series, we have created a sample website and published it on one of our Linux servers running on the cloud. I will directly open it now, mouse events. So this is the website that we have hosted on the Linux, and if I could see here, this is HTTP. The connection is not secure. It does not have a HTTPS. First, let me try to do one thing. What if I try to give HTTPS to a website which does not have SSL certificate installed? It's moving and obviously it will fail. Now I paused the recording and it's been more than 3 minutes. It's still moving and it's not working anything there. Let us take a look at our server quickly. We can see that currently our site mouse.events www.mouse.events is only listening on the 80 port. It does not have any HTTPS setup for it. And if you remember from previous videos, we are not directly setting up our websites on the default configuration which is present in conf.d, but instead we are trying to host multiple websites in a single server, and that's why we have two configurations, one for a subdomain address and another for the main domain address. In both the cases, we are listening through the 80 port, and based upon the domain name or the server name, we are differentiating which root folder to be issued to the browser. We have already explained there are two ways how we can host multiple websites. One is through the port numbers and other is through the domain name or the server name. In this case we are choosing server name. So all we need to do is now we need also to be listening in the 443 for the same server name, and that's how it will work. Let me open the browser. So here HTTPS has timed out. Now if I remove the S, it should be working. So HTTP is working and HTTPS is not yet enabled. Basically it's not even listening at that particular port. Let me clear the screen and begin with creating the self-signed certificate first. We need to first ensure we have OpenSSL or not. Let me try OpenSSL, and it's invalid command. Let's try man OpenSSL. So OpenSSL is present here. That's fine. Let me press Q, quit and clear. Now OpenSSL itself, we are going to, this is a command line prompt, and we are going to request OpenSSL to create a private and public key. So basically the public key will be linked with the certificate itself. We already explained how this public key or private key concept works. So let me start with, I'm already in the root user, so I don't have to give sudo for every command that I'm using. But in case you are using a different user, you need to start with sudo. But since I'm already in the root, I will start with OpenSSL. Now I'm going to request to OpenSSL request to provide me with the certificate. So what is the kind of certificate that I need? I need X509 certificate. So what is a X509 certificate? It's nothing but a certificate which will have the public key associated with it. So basically we will have a public key and a private key. Instead of storing the, we will never send the private key to the client. So we only send the public key along with the SSL certificate. So we need a certificate which will have the public key binded or attached to it. That's what we are going to tell OpenSSL to create for us first. So option is X509. In case you want to know all the options that are available, let me clear this quickly and show OpenSSL H. This should give me all the options that are available. Just take a look at those things. But currently we are requesting OpenSSL to provide me with the X509, which is nothing but a certificate with the public key binded to it. And all kind of certificates may or can contain a password. So which means when you want to open the certificate, it will ask you for a password so that you will be able to open it. This will, in case you are using digital signatures, using some kind of an USB key to sign some official documents, you know how this works. So there will be a certificate in your USB key. To open the certificate, you need to give a password, and then it opens the certificate using which you can digitally sign them. Basically, in case you are doing tax filing online, you might have already come across this concept, but this is not going to need a password. The reason is this certificate will be accessed by nginx, and every time the server restarts, it should be able to read the certificate without password, and that's why we need a certificate without password. So I will write no DES. DES stands for data encryption standard. So I am saying no data encryption standard. And how many days I need the certificate? I need the certificate for 365 days, and I'm going to start with a new key. So this new key is nothing but a private key. So far what we have done, we are requesting for X509 without password and the total number of days that we need, and along with a new key. What is the kind of key? It is an RSA algorithm, and the length of the RSA key should be 2048, which is the maximum. So RSA can be 100, 150, 200, 250. So there are different lengths of the particular key. I am going to say that I need this key in this length. So far we are cool. We missed one thing. Now currently there are two more options which are available for us, which is to export the certificate. So where do you want to export the certificate, and where do you want to create the key? If you see here, by X509 you are saying that you need a certificate itself. By new key you are saying that you need a new key, like a private key. So both OpenSSL will be creating it, but where do you want to export it? So that information we need to give. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cancel this command at present. We can come back to it shortly. Let's go back and create some folder inside SSL. It could be anywhere you want. It's totally up to you where you want to store it. I'm going to create a new directory inside this nginx folder and call it as SSL. And now we have SSL. Yeah, you could see that below sites enabled, we have SSL folder here. So let me clear, not clear the screen, and now I will say OpenSSL request X509 certificate without password, and I need it for 365 days, and please provide me with a new RSA key, a private key. And there are two outputs here. First output is your certificate, and I need this certificate to be present in from the beginning. If we say etc nginx, inside nginx SSL, I will create a folder called we don't need any folder. We'll directly say that this is nginx self-signed .crt. Remember the extension here, .crt stands for certificate. Okay, it will output the certificate. The next one is key out. So we are not only generating the certificate with no password and validity for 365 days, we are also generating a new key that we need to export to the location, same place, nginx SSL, let's say nginx self-signed p key. It's up to you, whatever you want to say, like private key dot key. Now there we go. Now it is going to ask me some information that will be included in the certificate request. So it's asking me the country name, to code. Currently I'm in United Arab Emirates. I will give AE, or I can give IN for India. State or province, let's say Tamil Nadu. Location or locality, let's say Trichy. Company, let's call it Mouse Events. Organization unit, let's say IT. And your server or your server's host name. So this is very important. What is your server's host name? Mouse.events. Email address, currently we don't have any email address. Let's say support@mouse.events. And that's it, which says that it is created. Let me clear list, open the SSL. I now have a certificate and then a private key. Let us open the default configuration first, or let's just see the current configuration. So let me open sites enabled. Sites enabled will have a soft link to the sites available. Those things we already covered in one of our previous videos in this series. So let me open sites enabled. We have two sites enabled, one for the main domain, other is a subdomain. Let's check site 1, and you could see that currently we are listening only at 80 port. Now we also need to listen at 443 port, which is the HTTPS port, and there we need to give some basic commands, how the SSL certificate is loaded and all those things. You don't have to worry about remembering all these things. The default configuration file will already have it, or else you can Google the default nginx conf and you can fetch them there. In our case, I will directly go to the default conf. We didn't do any change there. So here it will be present in cat nginx.conf. If you could see there, the nginx.conf currently has a username and process ID, error log, where it will be, among with all those things. We are mainly loading all the configurations which are present in the sites enabled. Basically, we are saying that any configuration that I put inside the sites enabled, load it into the nginx whenever it is restarted or reloaded. So in that way, we are listening to 80 port. You could also see that the main config file is also listening at 80. Our config file which we have placed in sites enabled is also listening at 80. Basically, there are three configurations which are listening at 80. The only difference is the server name. Based upon the server name, like if you make a request to mouse.events, the server is now going to receive at 80, and based upon the server name, it will direct which root folder to be used to load the HTML files. So it's all the difference, or like the secret or trick, everything lies in how we are using the server name. So that's where we differentiate it. In case the server name is not present, like this underscore, which means that it is a default one, it will try to load the default files from here. So we don't need to worry about all these things. We came here to copy this setup. So what I will do, I just selected, right? Let me try to open a notepad and just try to press Ctrl C. You remember, you see, I didn't copy, I did not press Ctrl C, because in Linux, when you press Ctrl C in the terminal, you mean you are quitting that command. Like I'm typing something, I press Ctrl C, it's quit. So here all I need to do is select, in the sense just select via the mouse. It's obviously already copied. Then here I'm going to put this one. That's it. So now that I have it, let me clear the screen. And oh my god, why did I come out? Okay, let us open sites enabled, because that's where we have it, and first to file we will edit site1.conf. So currently this is listening at 80 alone. Now I am going to say listen at 443 as well. Let us edit it here. If it is not much bigger, control plus plus. Okay, so it should be a little bit easy to understand now. You could see that whatever is with the hash, those things are commented out. So let me copy this and move it down so that we can reuse it. Okay, there we go. Listen at 443, yes we need, and it is SSL, yes. Server name is mouse.events or www.mouse.events. And where is my location? It is present in the same files we need to share, www.test1.site folder. And where is my SSL certificate present? You see that it is saying there are two things. I need to give the directory for certificate. I need to give the directory for key. If you remember, okay, maybe you remember, I forgot. So let me just quit here. Q for quit, and currently we are in this location. So we put this in SSL, CD SSL, and the file names are, let me copy them as well here just in case. Copy, and then I will keep them here for reference. Now let me go back, CD, I'm moving forward and backward again and again, but that's okay. We edit site 01. Okay, let's see. This is my certificate name that we generated, and it is present in etc nginx /SSL folder. So in the same folder, I have my key, which is going by the name this, and cache, some settings are there, timeout settings are there, blah 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 blah, some settings are there, and all those settings are there. I think we'll go with whatever settings are present. You don't even need to queue these settings, but we will just all we need is only the important two things: where is the certificate and where is the private key. Those two are the most important things. The remaining ones is totally up to you, whether you want to include the error page and all those things or not. In our case, we will just copy this directly and come back here. Now we need to edit it, right? So press I, move into insert mode, come down here, and then right click. It didn't work. Copy, right click. Okay, so I copied, I right clicked. What happened? I think the moment I right clicked, it replaced everything. It should not be the case, right? We also need to have let me quit without writing. Let's again do the V. Now press I for insert. Now let me try to press right click. This is wrong. This is totally wrong. This is not how it should be. This is removing everything from my screen now. Let me clear and do this again. Actually it is present, but since the mouse was not properly working, it was not showing up, but it is actually hiding it. That's why it was not shown. Anyhow, so we are not only listening at 80, we are also going to listen at 443 SSL. Now let me maximize it a bit, and the configuration file is here, blah 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 blah. So let me press escape and W and quit, right and quit. So now we have wrote the configuration, modified the configuration, and we quit it. Now all we need to do is system control restart nginx. If there are no issues, now it has restarted. Let's try our luck now. I will go for https // and whether it works or not, I don't know. Now what, we will go to our putty and we will ensure one more thing, whether the firewall is has opened 443 or not. If not, we need to do that. So firewall command list ports. So currently we are listening only at 80, 3306, 5001 and 2. We don't have add port 443 bar TCP. Now if I try this list ports, now 443 is also open. So in this case, I again need to, I don't need to, because anyhow I restarted it, right? So let me, okay, it's working. You could see what it says is, it is able to detect a certificate, but it considers that certificate as a potential security risk. I will explain why and how to resolve it, but first let us go ahead and say that, okay, it also gives a reason. It says that there is a certificate, but it is not trusted because it is self-signed. No worries. So now we managed to get the HTTPS. So connection is again, connection is not secure, but still it is giving me a warning sign. HTTPS is there, but it is not secure because the certificate is self-signed. This is my certificate, which has the information that I provided. From India, Tamil Nadu, Tiruchirappalli, mouse events, IT, and blah blah blah, and all those information. It is valid for 1 year. That's it. So this is how we do a self-signed certificate. Currently, we saw how to do the self-signed certificates. But in your case, if you are working for any corporate environment, if you are working for a company, or maybe your client has their own IT department, we will not do self-signed. Maybe they might ask you to do Let's Encrypt, which we will cover in the final part of this video. Let's Encrypt is nothing but a free non-profit organization which provides you with free SSL certificates. But many company does not need that. A company wants to buy their own SSL certificate from providers like GoDaddy or Cloudflare or Komodo, wherever they want. So in those cases, we will do exactly the same step what we did for self-signed, but with minor modification. So I will explain how it goes. First, for that to happen, first let us take a look at the certificate and key that we have created now. By now, if you followed everything, you should be able, what's happening to me? You should be able to understand whatever we have created. Now we created a certificate and then we created a key. Let us just try to open and see what it shows. nginx SS private key. Let me also try to open the certificate, nginx SS start certificate. So you could see that the first one contains, it's a base 64 string. It is a private key. So the second one is the certificate itself. We are not sure whether it is in the base 64 format. I'm not seeing the equal to, but it could be, but I don't know what it is. But we can be so sure that the certificate contains the public key. So what happens is, browser will receive this certificate and server will retain the private key. The request coming from the browser will be signed with the public key which is retrieved from this certificate, and the server will be able to decrypt the request and then read them. So that's how it works. Now you could see that we created the certificate itself and then we created the key. In case of a corporate or office environment, we will not be directly doing a self-signed certificate, but instead what we will do, we will create something called as CRS. Instead of a certificate, you request a, sorry, not CRS, it is CSR, certificate request. You need to create a request. So how do we do that? So let me go back and create inside the SSL folder itself. I will create one more folder called make directory cert rec, something like this, for production environment. In case you are going to go with purchasing some certificates online, this is what you will do. After you create a certificate request in that folder, so it's cert rec, right? So we use the same command. I'm in root, so I'm not going to use sudo. In your case, you can use sudo OPENSSL request. If you remember, earlier we tried X509. So we requested for the certificate itself. Now I'm going to say I don't need a certificate, I need a request. So I will give new stands for new will allow you to generate a new request, and then everything else is almost the same. So I need a new key. I made a mistake. So you cannot have this without the options, right? So I, instead of X509, now I'm saying I need a new certificate request with a new key, which will be RSA, of course, and it will be 2048 bytes length. And then it should not contain a password as well. So no DES. DES means no data encryption standards. And then we export key out. So the key we need to export it to, in this current location, I am in cert rec. You can give two ways. I am trying absolute relative path, but you can also go for full path from etc. nginx SSL. That will be better. But I will just try cert rec, and this is going to contain my key, which will be having a name, right? So let's say request hyphen private key dot key, and then I need the request output itself, which will be in the same folder, and request itself dot CSR. CSR stands for certificate request. Let's give this, and as usual, it's asking me the information. So it is in India, state or province is Tamil Nadu, city is TRZ Trichy, and company is Mouse Events, and unit name IT, it's up to you. Server name is very important, you cannot miss that. It should match your domain name, mouse.events. Address, it could be anything, so I will say support.mouse.events, and please enter the extra attributes to be sent with your request. A challenge password. We don't need a password, okay? So we are not going to do that. So let me press enter and leave it empty, and company name also I'm going to leave it empty. So in this case, let me clear the screen and open the certrec folder, and I will see now a key and then a CSR. Before we do anything, let me open this CRT and then show you something. Cat nginx ss.crt. So it says begin certificate. Now I will open the CSR. Cat, here I have a folder called certrec. Inside the folder I have a file called request.csr. No such folder. Okay, because I need to say that it is starting from here. Same folder. Okay, you see the .crt is a certificate. .csr is a certificate request. That's the difference. You are when you use the X509, you have generated the certificate itself. But when you use the new key, you are trying to generate the request. Now in a corporate environment or in your office environment, you will be sending it to let's say let's try some cheap Comodo positive SSL. It's not needed that it should be Comodo, but I find Comodo to be cheap. I can also find Rapid SSL. There is $8 one is present, $3.7 is present. There are cheaper ones available. It doesn't matter the price, because once you buy it, it will be propagated through different CA certificate authorities, and I could see that if I go for, it could be anything. If I go for $11 per month and then buy this particular website should be giving me an option to upload my request. Whichever company, wherever I am going to buy, it should be giving me an option to upload a request. So all the companies IT will do is they will buy a certificate from some providers, and after they buy that, it will be like asking you to provide a certificate request, which is nothing but the request that you created now. You will be providing the specific request to this company provider, Now there are two more things. Once this provider has received the certificate, they will give you a record, like which will be nothing but the DNS record or CNAME record. So those records you need to update in your domain name provider, the DNS records of your domain name. In case you have GoDaddy, you will be updating or changing that. But you don't have to worry about the further steps, because it depends upon which company certificate that you are going to buy through this website or this website. Whichever you are going to buy, they will be having their own process. They will let you know how you need to share the certificate request, and eventually what will happen after you do all these things. So that's why we are not going to look into buy the certificate or do this, because it will differ from company to company. But the gist of it is, after you give them the certificate request, they will give you the certificate. So they will not only give you one certificate, they will give you a certificate, intermediate certificate, and root certificate. What are all those? If I go to this mouse events and then I go connection is not secure, no problem, and then view certificate, I will find something called certificate chain, PEM chain. So chain means that this is a certificate which is issued. Whether it is issued with obviously it is issued with RSA encryption, and the key is there and all those informations are there. But how the company or the browser differentiates whether it is a self-signed or whether it is coming from a certificate authority is through the chain. So through the chain, it will be able to find, let me open it up with Notepad. Through the chain, it will be able to find different certificates, the intermediate one, the root certificate, and all those information, based on which it will know whether it is self-signed or it is signed by a trusted authority. In this case, the certificate itself, not the SSL certificate which contains the public key, but the whole certificate itself will be signed by another public key, another private key, which will be from a trusted certificate authority like GoDaddy or Komodo or anyone. That's how the browsers identify. They will send this certificate to the authority based upon the intermediate and root CAs, and then it will identify whether it is trusted or not. It is coming from them or not. So this is a whole process, but we don't have to worry about all those things. Currently, we understood how self-signed certificate works. And in case you want to raise a request, instead of going with X509, you will be doing a new request. So in case of generating a self-signed certificate and the key, you will use this command, OPENSSL request 509 certificate and the number of days you need, and then the key which is the algorithm, and then no DES without password, key out where you want the key and where you want the certificate. In case you are going to raise a request, so that you can send this request certificate request to an external party or external authority and then generate a certificate, you will follow this method. You will do, instead of these things, you will type new, and then everything else remains the same. Output will be CSR.